Oh, dude. Oh my gosh. I remember sleeping at 8
Uh,
o'clock and waking up at noon the next day. I
we are
do that. I'm
live
waking up at
now.
11 p.m.
We are live, folks, my friends. How you guys doing? I'm Rashard Tortorella with the Patriot Sentinel, episode 16, and I have my best co-hosts that anybody could have on a show. I'll start with Carrie Rails. Say
Hello.
hi.
Hello, hello. Great to see y'all tonight.
Cam, 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 Cam,
Hey,
Cam.
what's up,
So,
guys? I'm ready for another episode. Let's go.
Mhm.
can you believe that on the page on the page how this is how Facebook sets up the podcast and the views. Just on my personal page, we started the Patriot Sentinel podcast last July. We started Cam and I, and we had Gloria Bannister on, and then she had other obligations, and so Carrie Rails jumped back on the podcast, and we have another podcast together called Patient Matters. But the page in all, I sent you the stats and I posted it on our page or my page. 7 million views in 6 months. Okay,
Woo!
that is unheard of. seven
Mhm.
million views. I mean, so we are doing something right. People want the news; they're thirsty for the news, and that's why we're here. So we're going to be talking about several things tonight, and we're going to start with RFK. I think Carrie's been digging into this guy and our food system. I think she's the local expert. When I have bad food, stomach ache issues, I usually call her and say, "Hey, I ate this. What happened?" And she'll say, "No, you're fine. Your system will just flush it out." But she is as far as functional medicine goes. Um, we and everyone else I know goes to her for these questions here. So she wanted to talk about RFK's food pyramids, the dairy compact, Canada's supply chain, and some of the truths about milk that might surprise you. And Carrie, I'll let you take this off here, but why why RFK and why are you so obsessed about milk?
You know, this is one that I really shocked me. And so I was like, Rashard, we got to talk about this because there's a big misconception out there of just misinformation in nutrition in general.
So what's up? So RFK, he's RFK's been shaking things up, and he's got this new food pyramid. I think he announced almost 2.5 weeks ago, and pushing back on the traditional food system, especially when it comes to dairy and agriculture. So tell us
Yeah.
about the food pyramid, Carrie. Is it heavy on grains, dairy, and processed foods, or what?
Yeah. Well, the old food pyramid was absolutely old school and generated by cereal companies, right? To promote buying their cereal. And so with that, what our government did was like, it, my opinion, don't put too much thought into this. Just turn the pyramid
Mm,
upside down and we'll call it a new food pyramid. But
right.
where I specialize in genetic formation, not I'm half Italian, how your alleles are structured. Many people are born with issues where they cannot eat lactose for various reasons at a genetic level. So for them to say everyone should have milk, huge misunderstanding. It's just not the truth.
So what's the truth, Cam? So does it make sense when big industry controls food policy? Then it becomes not about health, or does it stay always about profits?
Well, as we looked in the past from COVID and on, everything is about profit margin. Everything's expensive nowadays. And I'll be honest with you, when you talk about dairy, everything has cheese, everything has dairy, everything has milk. And, I'm lactose intolerant. So here I go.
Yeah, you should not be drinking milk.
To tell you the truth, the only time I drink milk nowadays is with a bowl of cereal. That's it. So I'm not a big milk drinker, but Carrie, what about supply and demand? I mean, so more supply should mean lower prices. I mean, look, I don't know what people are arguing about and complaining about. Milk prices have dropped since Trump came back into office. I don't see, I mean, am I shopping at the wrong place?
Actually, they have not. Milk, a gallon of milk is now $10 if you want real milk. Back when in the 80s, I was raised on a goat farm and we milked goats and sold the milk, and it was a dollar a gallon, fresh goat's milk. And people would be like, that's outrageous. You're ripping us off, $1 a gallon. Well, now goat's milk is $20 a gallon. Cow's milk is $10 a gallon, where the dairy compact was actually formed after the Great Depression because Canada had monopoly on the dairy industry.
Mm.
For the first time in the United States history, we now have monopoly on the dairy industry. We are making more milk than Canada. So there's no reason milk should be $10 a gallon.
Wow. Goat milk. I don't know what that tastes like, but I'm okay with milk. But Cam, they say in Canada that the milk production is tightly controlled. Are you aware of that? About who sells it and who sets the price?
It wouldn't surprise me. Again, more regulation, more money, more expensive for people who need milk. So it wouldn't surprise me if Canada is going to overregulate milk.
Like they're over-regulating everything else. That their laws, their censorship laws, and everything else is just so whacked. I'm hoping that Canada becomes the 51st state. So I think most Canadians would agree that.
Greenland.
On top of that, and Canadians, but on the milk being diluted. Breaking news. So Trump is in Davos, and he just announced just a few minutes ago, I'm looking at the screen, that he's made a deal with everyone there. We're not going to do sanctions, or we're not going to do tariffs. We're going to do this, and we have a functional plan. And believe it or not, I think he's going to get this thing done by this year and have Greenland parts like Puerto Rico, I guess, right, Cam? Is
Yeah.
Greenland going to be a Puerto Rican, like Puerto Rico, like a protected American territory, but not necessarily the 51st state?
Well, look what Trump has done within a year. Yesterday, a year ago, Trump started office, and look at the amount of accomplishments the man has done. Whether you like him
Mm-hmm.
or not, again, whatever he put in his platform, he has been doing it. And Greenland, not a bad place to go on a vacation as an American. I'm just saying.
Well, we used to fly into Greenland. That was our halfway point, flying into Europe, So they land in Greenland, and we shake our legs off and get back on the plane. But how do we get from Greenland back to milk? So, Carrie, I heard that in Canada, there have been concerns that their milk is being diluted. What's up with that? So, are they doing that? Is that just a rumor, or do you know this for a fact?
The only way I know this is last night when Trump was on the news announcing this new dairy initiative. He's the one that mentioned they caught Canada diluting at 44% was his exact number.
What the hell? Why? With water?
Yes, with water.
That's some stepped on shit, man. It's like cocaine and baby powder, right?
That's called skim milk.
Cam, you got a new baby on the way. So if he or she is going to be a milk drinker, you better start stocking up now.
Hey, I'm getting a cow. I don't care. Let's go. Yeah, because I was gonna say I don't want Canadian milk. It's diluted. Might as well drink water.
Hey, just be sure you actually get a cow, not a bull.
Milk prices.
He'll be your best friend forever. So, Carrie, you're. Let's go back to the milk myth here. So, you're on this. Tell me about this milk myth. What is the biggest myths in America that we've heard? That has come through about milk, that milk is healthy for you. Is that true or not true?
It's not true at all. When you're looking at milk, just think any molecule that ends in OSE. So
Mm-hmm.
glucose, fructose, sucrose, mannose,
Mm-hmm.
lactose. It's sugar. All those are sugar molecules. And so when you look at the ingredients on your milk, just keep in mind for every 4 grams of sugar, that equals 1 heaping teaspoon of white table sugar.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah. So if your milk has 36 grams of sugar, divide that by 4. And that's how many heaping teaspoons of sugar you are drinking in that fortified glass.
Now, is that just for
Sugar
the
water.
process of milk? Is it the
Yes,
process of making milk? I mean, so is sugar inherently in the milk?
yes, it is.
Cam, what about sugar water?
It's sugar water, man. Like, come on.
I think
That the reason? Is that Carrie? Is that the reason why inflammation is so prevalent here in the U.S.?
yes, yes. When we formed that dairy compact with Canada, then General Mills was invented. That's when the slogan "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day" was invented. When cereal needed to be sold to sell more milk.
Mm-mm,
That's when you can literally see the trajectory of diabetes and obesity taking off in the United States.
mm-mm-mm. Then they have the cereals
Hmm.
and the bars in the morning. You know, like we used to have. Remember, Carrie, that cereal called Super Sugar Crisp with the
Yeah.
bear on the front there. And we were so loaded up. I didn't know that with the milk and the cereal, how bad it was for us, you know. So,
50
Cam,
grams of sugar in a bowl.
what?
But ice cream is
Yeah.
so
How?
good.
You might as well eat
How?
ice cream
Wait,
for breakfast.
go back. Well, how much was in the bowl?
About 70 grams of sugar with the milk and
Holy
cereal combined.
cripes, man, Cam. What are you
Yeah, it's
You
not
thinking?
know,
Is
about
that
being hyper when you're a kid. No, it's not about being hyper. It's just these 70 grams of sugar.
you get that it's fortified. I hear it all the
Hmm.
time in Oklahoma, but it's fortified.
now? You also said that they're adding the wrong form of calcium and vitamin D. That that
Yeah,
that that is not usable in the human body.
right. They're using a form of calcium that is not microcrystalline calcium that will not remodel bone. MCHC, microcrystalline calcium, is the only form that will remodel bone. And then
Man, so
we can't even absorb without K2 present. And so it's just a
man,
waste of form.
at that point, we're just drinking fortified Coke. Is what it sounds like.
Yes. So that's where I really like, guys, we got to back the truck up for a minute, listen to the beat, 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 because this is not accurate information that we're being given.
Man, man, oh man.
Wow.
Um, Cam. So I used to be a big Coke drinker, and everybody was on the show. And to think that drinking a can of Coke is just as bad as having a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sugar's a
no,
Toxins.
in my household, we only drink water. And before, I remember talking to my parents about it. I'm like, hey, how come we don't have any soda, any of this? And I remember them telling me, hey, it's bad for you. And I remember going like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then one of the things that I heard that was the funniest correlation, how many diet people do you see how many people do you see that drinks Diet Coke are skinny? I'm like, oh yeah, they're all fat. So
Man,
just saying.
Billy Robinson, he's watching this right now. He says raw milk is the best way to go. So, Carrie, what is raw milk? Is that like going to the back to your barn? I mean, what
It's right
exactly
out
is
the
raw
udder,
milk?
pasteurized. And so you're really having to trust your farmer that you're not drinking E. coli in your milk. That's what I see a lot in microbiome stool testing with patients. They end up riddled with E. coli because there's not pasteurization. And so you're ending up eating all the microbes.
Man. Billy also says I pay $7 a gallon for raw milk from a family dairy in Claremore. So that sounds like a good deal. We got to find out where that. Hey, Billy, post where that store is at. How far is Claremore from here, Cam?
Oh, you're
As
north of
far as
That's
Tulsa.
right north of Tulsa. Yep.
Yeah.
disregard.
Yeah.
We need to
Hey,
find
Carrie
one
knows
closer
everybody.
to
The
Carrie.
misconception here is with the cows eating. And so if your cow is eating corn and cottonseed cake, your milk is filled with mold.
Oh
Grass
God,
Oh,
fed is marketing. It has to be grass finished. And that's where Kirby Land and Cattle grass finishes for that reason.
well, it's too bad he doesn't sell milk or his cows or milk cows. So, and
Mhm.
Melinda, everything Carrie is saying is correct. That's why we don't drink milk. So, Cam, all you guys drink is just water.
bro, we're like plants, man. A little bit of sun and a little bit of water. Let's go.
Water,
Hey, no,
tequila.
like, yeah. It's natural. It's natural.
Hey, is it filtered at least though?
Yeah, no, ours is filtered, and we put the money on the side just to make sure we get good water, because getting that city water, it's delicious.
All right, we have to go to the next segment, and this is Lisa Cook. So, Cam,
Ooh.
you are very passionate about this story, just as I am. So, tell us about Lisa Cook and why the Supreme Court should rule in Trump's favor.
So at the end of the day, Trump is the overall administrator within the federal government. So if there's a board man or somebody who is not doing their job, he has the ability to fire them without, repercussion. So what's going on with Lisa is she's saying, well, I'm the Federal Reserve governor, and she wants to be that individual who
Yeah.
wants to go against the president. Who doesn't? But coming back to that, it's not about her and fighting against Trump. Trump is the president and he has the ability. So right now she's suing. Today there was a legal hearing in the Supreme Court Justice, Trump versus Cooks. And the argument is there's a lack of checks and balances within the president's office. But his job is to regulate and be the top administrator within
Right.
the federal world. So I'm like, what are you doing, lady? So big picture, presidential powers, statutory limits, judicial review, big words. All I care about is what's going to happen to our interest rates. Are they going to lower? Come on.
I know,
So,
right?
what most people don't understand is that the president is the chief executive officer of that branch, the executive branch, and he's allowed to make these changes. And people like Lisa Cook, she claimed, I saw a clip the other day, that it's all about race. No, you stupid dumbass bitch. It's not about race. You lied. You signed a false mortgage. All right. How can we trust you to take care of our monetary policy if you're taking out fake mortgages? That's why he wants you gone. Not because you're black, not because you're female. It's because you're stupid and a big dumbass. All right. Don't cheat. Don't corrupt the system. And that's why he wants you gone. And that's what the Democrats, well, the liberals too, let's just say liberal Democrats don't understand, is that Trump has the responsibility to protect the executive branch. And he's done a great job so far. As a matter of fact, I like to know if somebody can pull up the stats real quick on what his win is at the Supreme Court, because every time these guys try to do something, they take it to district courts, and then Trump has to take it to the Supreme Court, the dude always wins. And that's saying something, all right? Do your job, Lisa Cook. The Federal Reserve is the basis for our monetary policy. And if you're going to cheat here, we have to question, I think, Carrie, what else is she lying about?
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's past cheating. This is an FEC violation. I can't pull out false mortgages without going to prison. Your skin color, your gender, your tax bracket, your where you live has nothing to do with where if you should be exempt of violating the law, nor does ignorance.
So as government employees, Cam, remember when you were active duty, I'm not sure if your current rate allows you or requires you to do it, but we had to sign a form every year about ethics and finances. Remember that? Where, you have to tell the government about your finances so they know where your money is coming from. And if you are engaged in such business practices on the private side as a government employee, they didn't want that to affect your ability to do your job or blackmail. All right. So
Yeah,
it's very
conflict of
important. I
interest
think
is a big thing.
I think that she needs to go. I would be. It's a disgrace. So having two mortgages is not the issue. It's that she has the first time. It's like the first time home buyers deal. Cam, what is the issue with the mortgages again? With her mortgages,
What's the
the
issue with
biggest
the
thing.
mortgages?
Yeah, she has two mortgages in two different locations, claiming they're both primary residents. Okay. Now, we can say, I mean, look, let's just say, is that a big deal? In the big scheme of things, is that a big deal? But didn't they get one of Trump's supporters back in 2018 or 2020 or 2021 for exactly the same thing? I can't remember the dude's name, but they got them for all this small shit, you know, for all this stuff that
Mhm.
normally it wouldn't matter in everyday life. Okay, but now the tables have turned, and he's not going after them for retribution. He's just saying this is the law. You know, you broke it. They did it to him. Look at like the Theta L. James, whatever her name is in New York. You know, she went after him for everything that was stupid in his business world and life that had nothing to do as being president or anything else. And look what they did to this guy. Okay, that is lawfare. But I think going
Mhm.
after Lisa Cook, you know, that's his right. It's like the president of a corporation. He can fire anybody that works for him. That's his right. And so I think he's going to win this at the Supreme Court. What do you guys think? How are they going to
I
rule?
hope at some point we got to set precedent on political crimes. We're not doing it. They're not okay. Nobody can. And at some point, somebody has to step up. A court needs to rule that political crimes are crimes.
Yeah, nobody's above the law at the end of the day. Not the president, not the Lisa Cook. And the odds, if I was in Vegas, I would be
Mm-hmm.
putting my money towards Trump because the White House says he is 21 and 0. So just
Yeah,
saying.
I wouldn't want to be on his bad side.
you know, the reason why he's right is because he's right. All right, it's just common sense, and like Marcus Hill says, if the common Joe did what these people have done, like Lisa Cook, would they look at us as lenient? I don't think so. I mean, shit, what did Roger Stone do? And they dragged that poor guy out of his house at 6 a.m. And,
Yeah.
and and Trump too at Mar-a-Lago. They had these FBI. I mean,
Mhm.
raided, busted down his door. Well, their big ass door, so they knocked. But still, the point is, right, is that they did the 6 a.m. raid with CNN in the background, and it was all for show. Okay, so I don't feel sorry for Lisa Cook or any of those scumbags. Local Oklahoma story. So, who's been following the Broken Arrow Islamic Center story? So, a couple of weeks ago, it goes back maybe about a month now, the Planning Commission in Broken Arrow, approved the development and building of the Islamic Center in that area. And City Council, about 2 weeks ago now, Cam, had a City Council meeting where they focused just solely on the mosque this time. And they had an auditorium, and I think hundreds of people spoke and showed up, for and against it. And and I watched parts of it. I skimmed through it, but I got two issues. Okay, you guys know that I'm a private property rights advocate. So here in Norman we had the Turnpike, and it was my responsibility to fight and represent our districts and our constituents. And when the government comes in and says, I'm going to take your property through the use of the tool called eminent domain, they're supposed to use it with a scalpel like precision. Just so small. But these guys here, they put a bucket on a map of Ward 5 and kicked it over and said, I want all this land here for the turnpike. Okay, so that's also abuse. So, and as Republicans and as property owners here, we protect our rights to our property, because I think that's the basis for all our other rights. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and so forth here is the right to own property and protect it. So, with the Islamic mosque, you know, my question is that who owns that land? And it came out during that briefing, or that 3 hour public discussion, that is owned by this entity called the North America Islamic Trust, which has ties to Hamas and the Brotherhood. Now, that send chills. It should send chills down everyone's spine, Cam, that the trust is in the North American Islamic Trust, with ties to CARE, with ties to Hamas, in the brotherhood. So do you think the city council made the right decision and it was not a religious one at this point?
Well, I will say the best thing they did was let everybody have an opportunity and speak, which the auditorium was huge. There were people, from your farmer to even candidate Charles McCall showed up that day and showed a presence. And there was other people there, but I think they got it right. Again, it's not about religion. It's not about what's going on. Is hey, this is the reason why we have to deny you and try again, or we got to have a conversation and or go from there. But at least I think they got this right.
Carrie, do you think that the residents of Broken Arrow fear this mosque like the Texans fear all those mosques being built south of us? How Minnesota, Minneapolis, Massachusetts, now parts of Ohio, Las Vegas, California have all this Islamic presence. And we see what's happened to Europe. I mean, so do you think they also felt that they didn't want this mosque there for a reason? Is because we don't want this incursion of another lifestyle where they live in a silo and probably don't consider themselves to be Americans.
Well, I will say there's many Americans in Oklahoma and in the United States that are Americans and they're Muslim. Just because somebody is Muslim doesn't mean they want to change our constitution to Sharia law. Our foundation, our founding fathers said any religion can come here. You can't hurt yourself. You can't hurt anyone else. But your
Right.
religion is welcome. You don't have to be Christian to be an American. So there's a violation there. And here is the backhanded story that I get frustrated with. In 2022, it was reported Qatar owns 1.7 million acres of Oklahoma's rural property. That was in 2022. Now we just gave them millions of more land for mineral exploration and mining. This is Qatar. So out of 77 of our 74 counties, we have three that are American soil. 74 are sovereign, Native American soil. They are not American soil. So how much of that American soil, which is a fraction, did we just give to Qatar? And you want to complain about a church you don't like? No. If you don't want a Muslim church in Oklahoma, why would you give over 2 million acres to the country of Qatar?
We need to bring that on next week, Carrie, and discuss that in detail and get that the segment it deserves, because a lot of Oklahomans don't understand that. But I think the problem we have here in the state, and I support the law that says you have to be an American citizen to buy and own land, and that will stop that. But what's to stop somebody from being approached by Qatar or somebody else and said, "Hey, we want you to be the head of this LLC and buy this land for us"? And so, we're stuck again in a situation where we can't control who buys the land. And you're right. If Qatar is indeed doing what you said they have done, then that's also a problem too. But we have a problem then in America that I think the president needs to look at sometime before his term is up, as to who can own land in America, because you can't go to Mexico, you can't go to Russia, you can't go anywhere else in the world. Okay, I can say that with maybe 99% certainty, and as an American citizen, buy property in a different country. Because of why? You have to be a citizen of that country to purchase land. Now go back to the Islamic mosque. So I looked at it, and having seen hundreds of developments in my time, is that the land doesn't support the development, doesn't fit into the comprehensive plan. The roads have to be widened. They're going to have septic tanks, and they're going to accommodate about 800 people. Okay, so for us that used to live in the country, Carrie, that have septic tanks, what's the one thing you need for an operating system to work? You need what? You need a way for it to percolate, right? It needs to go someplace.
You have to understand nobody's living in this church. They're pooping on Sunday.
Even pooping and peeing on Sunday, one day a week, if that parking lot's filled, let's say 700 cars show up and you got 4.5 people in the car, all right, and half of those guys take a shit and a piss, where's it all going to go? There's no leach field. Every square inch of that property has cement over it. So where's it going to go? I can tell you where it's going to go. It's either going to flow back into the church, all right, or it's going to bust out someplace and flow into somebody else's property, get into a creek or a river, and flow downward. That's what's going to happen. So this whole thing
But
should have never.
that's not
What?
for the county to decide. That's for the EPA, the DEQ, and the OGWA, the professionals.
That's that's what the planning commission should have looked at. Did you get this approved by DEQ? Did you get this? And so whoever the chair was on that committee, and good thing for us, the lady that I nominated to our chair to represent us, she knows her business. Okay, and they didn't ask the right question. There's nothing wrong with the planning commission saying to the developer, this is not going to work. Okay, you have so many problems, and one, it doesn't fit in the comp plan, and say you got to take it back to the board and relook it over. It happens all the time. And then when it reaches to city council and we look at it and we ask those questions. Now, you guys know that sometimes I used to complain about how long our city council meetings were. We would ask questions about everything. These guys didn't even spend more than 5 minutes, having the discussion about what really is the problem. And I thought the mayor, and look, it's hard being in the position, and we don't want to armchair quarterback this thing now. But she should have had the discussion with the city manager, and they should have looked at the development and look at everything and had that conversation on record, because
Mhm.
the developer just filed a lawsuit last week that they
Mhm.
denied the Islamic Center based on religious um, discrimination. And so the
Yeah, and
city's going to have to point.
environmental channels, they did.
What's that?
If they didn't go through those environmental channels, they did.
Based on bad development, bad planning, not religious discrimination. Okay, and so but
Mhm.
Broken Arrow still has to represent themselves in the lawsuit, when I felt that maybe they should have had a better conversation to explain why that they were going to vote no. Okay, and as far as the fear of Islamic influence here, I also think it's a real thing too as well. I mean, we always, a good example, when I was living in Germany, born and raised, in the mid '60s, early '70s, Germany had uh, a shortage of workers, and so they talked to Turkey and said, "Hey, we want you to come work in Germany, and here's the deal: you have to assimilate, you have to speak the language, and if you do it for so many years, then you become a citizen. And if you do it, then your kids become citizens." And they did. They came. They learned the language. They assimilated into the culture, and they became Germans. You just didn't know who you were talking to. Dark skinned German dude, right? Because they honored their part of the agreement. And so um, we have Persian friends who aren't Islamic, and they're successful here in Oklahoma City. They have their business owners, and they run successful businesses here, and and they assimilate, and they would say that they're Americans first, all right. But most Islam centers and Islamic people came that we've seen and heard. Texas has 200 mosques that were built in the last 2 years. What the hell? And then there's a video we'll play it next week of an imam in Dallas saying Texas and Dallas is ground zero for the Islamification of America. Okay, so we got them on our flank down in the south, and then we have them up north in Minnesota. We have in Massachusetts, west of California. Cam, is this a real fear for Americans living in Oklahoma when they see what's happening in Europe, what's happening down south in Texas, up north in Minnesota? Is it a real fear?
I think it's a threat. I think it's more than a fear because we're talking about people who have infiltrated into the U.S. and potentially our sleeping cells. We've talked about this where national security is still trying to figure out who are the good guys, who are the bad guys. Let's catch the bad guys and get them out of this country. And when we're looking at, for example, like the mosque, where's the funding coming from? Why aren't we asking the question, why aren't these monies or trusts being investigated? Because if there's money coming here to take out the American culture,
Right.
that's going to be a parasitic approach.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, we're at the end of the session here. So as always, we have the.
I want to mention something really quick that is
Go
kind
ahead.
of an out of the box because I've had this conversation brought to me a lot this last week. There's not poor people buying land or water rights in the United States. These are the
Right.
wealthiest of the wealthy buying it. So guess what? Just like Elon Musk, a South African native, you buy a fast pass because now you're a rich man and now you're immediate American buying land. And you're Elon Musk, you confiscate a town, call it Starbase, and shut off access to the ocean. So just because you're an American, what this is saying, only the rich foreigners that can afford a fast pass can invade our property and our mineral rights. There needs to be a process, whether, I've never met a 20-year-old that's purchasing property and mineral rights. Have you lived in America for 20 years? There needs to be an actual length of how long have you been an American, not for 5 million I bought a fast pass and now I get to buy your land.
Right. Right. Good point, Carrie, as always. But it comes to the end of the show tonight, and as always, we have 30 seconds to say whatever it is we want to say. Funny, serious, and we'll start with Cam this time.
Hey, again, now we're in YouTube. We're not going to be censored, and there's going to be plenty more episodes coming up. I'm excited. We're in 6 months. Look how much accomplishments we have done. So, congrats to you, Rashard. Congrats, Carrie. We let's keep getting this ball going and let's keep this energy going. I'm excited for this year, guys.
Absolutely. Carrie?
2026 is the year of locking arms, camaraderie, building a tribe, not pointing guns at each other, and deciding who's not good enough to be in the tribe.
True. True. That's a good way to end up being the only man in the tribe.
Yeah.
As always, I want to thank both of you guys for showing up tonight here. We have done tremendous, something that I never thought in my wildest dreams, having access to the White House, having access to a news platform, news service, and the stories that we share and write, we have made an impact. And more of our viewers, they want kind of a balance. They want more local news, more local commentary about what's happening here in Oklahoma. And we're going to be sure to subscribe. Did we freeze?